Imagine pouring your entire heart and soul into a massive national television singing competition in your home country, only to be completely rejected, painfully eliminated, and immediately forgotten by the mainstream music industry. For most aspiring artists, a devastating public failure of that massive magnitude is the absolute end of their professional singing career. But for Matty Juniosa, that heartbreaking rejection in the Philippines was merely the incredibly dark, necessary prologue to one of the most unbelievable, history-making comebacks in the entire history of global reality television. By bravely crossing the globe and fiercely stepping onto the notoriously intimidating stage of Britain's Got Talent, he did not just seek a simple second chance. He completely shattered television records by becoming the first Filipino artist to ever secure 2 massive golden buzzers in a single season. This is the incredibly profound, deeply emotional true story of how a bullied, deeply misunderstood outcast transformed his agonizing trauma into a highly lucrative international music empire. This is the insane, highly anticipated update on exactly what happened to the legendary Matty Juniosa after the cameras finally stopped rolling. Long before the blinding multi-million-dollar stage lights of the United Kingdom and the massive, deafening roars of the global television audience, the daily existence of young Matty Juniosa was completely defined by a heavy, suffocating internal battle. Growing up in Mandaluyong City in the Philippines, he discovered a profound, incredibly deep passion for music and fashion design at a very early age. However, this brilliant creative spark was heavily overshadowed by the intense, highly toxic societal and familial pressures to perfectly conform to a highly rigid, deeply traditional standard of masculinity. As a deeply sensitive young boy who inherently knew he was fundamentally different, the agonizing pressure to actively hide his true identity was absolutely crushing. He has bravely admitted that the most painful, devastating words he ever forced himself to speak were the desperate, hollow claims that he was a straight man, completely denying his authentic reality just to appease the harsh expectations of the people around him. When his parents officially separated in 2010, his deeply fragile emotional world was completely shattered, adding a massive layer of intense psychological trauma to his already heavy burden. Instead of completely collapsing under the agonizing weight of his heavily fractured family and his deeply suppressed identity, he deliberately chose to fiercely channel all of his agonizing emotional pain directly into his vocal cords. He utilized music not merely as a simple hobby, but as an absolute, desperate psychological lifeline to simply survive his dark adolescence. Driven by an incredibly desperate, overwhelming need to finally be heard and authentically validated, he bravely decided to aggressively pursue a professional career in the highly competitive Philippine entertainment industry. His initial, highly ambitious attempt to conquer the voice of the Philippines, unfortunately, ended in a deeply crushing, absolute rejection before he could even properly showcase his massive vocal capabilities. Completely refusing to let that massive failure permanently destroy his fragile dreams, he bravely returned to the highly intimidating television arena in 2019, auditioning for the massive inaugural season of Idol Philippines at just 20 years old. When he powerfully belted out Aretha Franklin's iconic track, Natural Woman, he completely shocked the massive judging panel, securing a highly coveted 4-chair standing ovation and instantly establishing himself as a massive vocal threat. He successfully battled his way completely into the highly exclusive Top 12 live rounds, consistently delivering incredibly emotional, highly technically proficient performances. However, the notoriously fickle, highly unpredictable nature of public voting television completely betrayed his massive, undeniable talent. Despite possessing one of the absolute strongest, most unique vocal instruments in the entire national competition, he was shockingly, painfully eliminated in the very first live round. This deeply premature, highly unceremonious exit was a massive, incredibly devastating psychological blow that violently shattered his massive dreams of local superstardom. For a highly sensitive, deeply passionate artist, experiencing such a massive, heavily publicized national rejection can completely and permanently destroy any remaining shred of professional confidence. The immense, suffocating weight of failing so incredibly publicly on national television drove him into a deeply reflective, highly transformative psychological state. He realized with absolute, terrifying clarity that the highly restrictive, deeply conservative mainstream entertainment industry in the Philippines might never truly fully understand or properly appreciate his fiercely unique, highly flamboyant artistic identity. Instead of desperately begging for validation from a local industry that had already completely discarded him, he made the incredibly brave, highly dangerous decision to entirely reinvent his professional trajectory. He made the massive, life-altering geographical and psychological leap to relocate completely to Glasgow, Scotland. This monumental transition was not just a simple change of physical scenery. It was a desperate, highly calculated strategic move to completely reset his entire existence. Moving entirely across the globe forced him to completely strip away all the toxic, deeply ingrained expectations of his past, and finally embrace his absolute, unapologetic truth as a proud member of the LGBTQIA community. He was actively preparing his highly fragile soul for the absolute biggest, most terrifying professional gamble of his entire life, completely determined to aggressively conquer a stage that was completely blind to his past failures. When a highly mature, completely reinvigorated 27-year-old Matty Juniosa finally walked onto the massive, globally broadcasted stage of Britain's Got Talent in 2026, the entire atmosphere was instantly electrifying. The incredibly cynical, highly seasoned British judging panel completely expected just another standard, highly forgettable international audition. But the absolute second he forcefully gripped the microphone and began to deliver his own deeply emotional, highly personalized rendition of the legendary Prince masterpiece, Purple Rain, the entire massive auditorium was completely paralyzed by his raw power. He did not simply sing the highly famous lyrics. He aggressively bled his entire agonizing history of intense rejection, profound identity struggles, and massive familial trauma directly onto the stage. Every single incredibly powerful, soaring high note completely shattered the highly manufactured, heavily sanitized reality television formula, forcing the entire global audience to actively bear witness to his incredibly raw, completely unfiltered human soul. The immense, undeniable vocal gravity he completely commanded on that specific stage proved beyond any shadow of a doubt that he was absolutely not the same terrified, highly insecure young boy who was brutally rejected in the Philippines years ago. He had successfully, brilliantly transformed his massive, suffocating pain into an absolute, undeniable superpower, delivering a completely unforgettable performance that instantly dominated global internet trending algorithms. The deeply emotional, incredibly chaotic aftermath of that massive, history-making audition completely broke the traditional boundaries of the television format. As the absolute final, breathtakingly powerful note of Purple Rain violently echoed through the completely stunned auditorium, the notoriously critical, highly intimidating industry titan Simon Cowell did something incredibly rare and deeply profound. He did not just casually praise the performance. He explicitly stated to the massive cheering crowd that he was pressing the button on behalf of every single person in the room. When Simon aggressively slammed his hand heavily down onto the highly coveted golden buzzer, sending a massive, glittering explosion of golden confetti violently raining down onto the stage, it was an incredibly powerful, deeply poetic moment of ultimate global validation. For a young, fiercely independent artist who had literally spent his entire life desperately fighting intense societal rejection and completely hiding his true, authentic self, That massive, falling golden confetti represented the absolute, undeniable death of his deepest insecurities. The absolute most powerful, highly feared music executive in the entire global entertainment industry had just completely and loudly validated the exact same unique artistic identity that the local Philippine market had so quickly and brutally discarded. That specific golden buzzer instantly catapulted him completely out of complete obscurity and directly into the highly lucrative, fiercely competitive upper echelon of global television royalty. Securing a massive golden buzzer completely guarantees a highly coveted spot in the live semi-finals, but it also immediately attaches an impossibly heavy, suffocating level of global expectation to the artist. The immense, terrifying pressure to completely match or somehow aggressively surpass the massive viral explosion of an initial audition has completely destroyed countless talented singers in the past. But when Matty bravely returned to the massive stage for the highly competitive live semi-finals, he executed a massive, completely unprecedented masterstroke of artistic brilliance. He boldly selected the incredibly difficult, highly intimidating Aerosmith rock anthem, Dream On. As the highly dramatic song steadily built towards its absolute climax, he completely unleashed a series of stratospheric, impossibly high vocal belts that entirely defied absolute human limitation, completely setting the massive stage on absolute fire. The performance was so undeniably spectacular, so completely overwhelming in its sheer vocal athleticism and raw emotional intensity, that it forced the television network to completely rewrite reality television history. In a massive, completely unprecedented television shocker, celebrity judge Amanda Holden was so deeply moved that she aggressively hit a second golden buzzer, making Matty the absolute first Filipino contestant in the entire history of the massive franchise to ever secure 2 separate golden buzzers in a single season. This incredibly historic moment permanently cemented his massive status as an absolute reality television legend. As he completely stormed his way directly into the massive, highly anticipated grand finale of Britain's Got Talent, the entire global narrative had completely shifted. He was no longer just a highly talented international contestant. He was a massive, highly profound symbol of absolute human resilience and fierce authenticity. For his absolute final, deeply monumental performance, he chose to strip away all the massive, heavily choreographed stage production and deliver an incredibly vulnerable, profoundly intimate rendition of Nothing Compares to You standing entirely alone on the massive stage, completely stripped of any protective theatrical armor. He delivered a highly emotional, deeply devastating vocal masterclass that left millions of viewers completely in tears. While the highly unpredictable, notoriously fickle British public voting system did not ultimately crown him as the absolute official winner of the season, the actual physical television trophy had completely lost its relevance. He had already successfully achieved something infinitely more valuable than a generic, highly disposable reality television title. He had completely conquered one of the most incredibly difficult, highly critical entertainment markets on the entire planet, entirely on his own uncompromising terms. He walked completely away from that massive, highly glittering stage, possessing a massive, fiercely dedicated global fan base, and the absolute, unwavering respect of the most powerful executives in the mainstream international music industry. The massive, highly anticipated update on his incredible professional trajectory following the conclusion of the television broadcast is absolutely insane and deeply inspiring. The very same highly traditional, heavily conservative music industry that once completely ignored and painfully rejected him is now desperately scrambling to secure his massive, highly lucrative signature. Following his completely historic double golden buzzer television run, he was immediately flooded with highly lucrative international recording offers and massive global touring opportunities that completely bypassed the standard, highly restrictive reality television contracts. Instead of being completely forced to heavily sanitize his fiercely unique image to appease out-of-touch corporate executives, he is now in the absolute, undeniably powerful position to completely dictate his own artistic terms. He is actively utilizing his massive, newly acquired global leverage to completely focus on heavily writing and recording his own highly personal, deeply authentic original music, firmly refusing to simply become a highly entertaining, completely disposable cover artist. His rapidly expanding, fiercely dedicated international audience is aggressively supporting his completely independent artistic vision, highly anticipating the release of a massive original album that deeply explores his incredible, highly traumatic journey from complete national rejection to absolute, undeniable global domination. The completely discarded Idol Philippines region has brilliantly transformed into a massive, highly demanded international vocal powerhouse. Beyond the incredibly massive, highly lucrative recording contracts and the rapidly swelling international streaming numbers, his incredible post-television journey has deeply solidified his massive status as a powerful, highly influential global advocate. By fiercely and loudly embracing his absolute truth as a proud, openly queer artist on one of the absolute largest, most heavily watched broadcast platforms in the entire world, he has completely transformed into a massive, undeniable beacon of hope for the LGBTQIA community. He actively uses his massive digital platform to fiercely advocate for radical self-acceptance and absolute, unapologetic authenticity, directly reaching out to deeply isolated, highly vulnerable youth who are currently desperately fighting the exact same suffocating identity struggles he bravely conquered. Furthermore, he has brilliantly integrated his incredibly deep, lifelong passion for high fashion design into his massive musical brand, actively designing his own incredibly bold, fiercely flamboyant stage costumes. This incredible, highly cohesive merging of his massive vocal talent and his brilliant visual creativity proves that he is not just a standard singer, but a highly complex, completely fully realized artistic visionary. He has successfully transformed every single unique, deeply marginalized aspect of his identity into a highly profitable, fiercely celebrated artistic superpower, completely inspiring an entire generation to aggressively reject societal conformity and proudly embrace their own unique brilliance. When you closely analyze the absolute, incredibly dramatic totality of this massive artistic journey, it becomes completely, undeniably clear that his story is the ultimate, highly triumphant blueprint for professional survival. The massive, deeply poetic irony of his entire career is that the exact same fierce authenticity and deeply unique vocal flamboyance that caused his highly painful, devastating rejection in his home country became the exact specific catalyst for his massive, unprecedented global triumph. He completely proved to the entire universe that experiencing a massive, heavily publicized failure does not permanently define your ultimate destiny. It simply aggressively redirects you toward a much larger, infinitely more appreciative global audience. He completely survived the highly toxic, deeply predatory reality television meat grinder not by aggressively changing who he was, but by bravely doubling down on his absolute, unapologetic truth. The massive, historic double golden buzzer legacy he permanently left on the British stage is a stunning, undeniable testament to the absolute, staggering power of extreme resilience. The incredible, absolutely insane evolution of Matty Juniosa actively reminds every single rejected artist in the entire world that sometimes the industry is not actually rejecting your talent. They are simply completely unequipped to handle your massive, undeniable greatness. He did not just quietly bounce back from a massive failure. He aggressively broke the entire system and completely rebuilt it in his own glorious image.